Today we will discuss on contract and contract management for works. We know that parties have relation of promisor and promisee and not of employer and employee. It means suppose an organization is inviting the tenders or has invited the tenders and engineer is working on their behalf and then a contractor is there, then engineer should not consider that contractor is an employee of the organization or his employee, and it should be understood that there is a relation of promisor and promisee. It means both have to fulfill their obligations. So and what is obligation between these two? That is promise, and promise is written in terms of the contract conditions. So that promise or obligations is binding on both the parties and has to be fulfilled for better contract management. In case this is not implemented and then there is a dispute and their contract management may be difficult. For example, suppose site is to be handed over within certain time or immediately after award of work to the contractor, then it should be done. Or suppose monthly payment is to be made to the contractor, then monthly payment should be made. Similarly, if a contractor is to do a work as per specifications and quality, he has to do it. And suppose within a time frame he has to do certain activities, then he should do it. So this promise is binding on both the parties, and that is important, and this is to be fulfilled by both the parties for good contract management. And we know there may be contracts like item rate contract, percentage rate contract, lump sum contract, EPC contract, or turnkey contracts. But the principle remains same in all types of contracts. So in a contract, promise basically is defined through contract provisions, and contract provisions are many. And we know that tender when accepted is called contract, particularly when communicated. And contract includes accepted tender documents, conditions, and negotiations, if any. So all those things are part of the contract. And tender document before award of work, before formation of contract, whatever tender documents are there, those become part of the contract. They may include the conditions of press notice, notice inviting tender, instructions to bidders, conditions of contract, BOQ, general conditions, special conditions, if any, technical specifications, and drawings. So these are all part of the tender document, but then they become the part of contract, including letter of award and negotiations, if any. And when we are calling the tenders and we are preparing the tender document, then it is essential that we consider all the conditions, all very carefully we prepare the tender document. And a good tender document is there, then that will avoid the disputes, and ultimately contract management will be easier. So when we prepare a tender document, we should call a meeting of our team before preparation of tender documents. And team means this may be architectural teams, structural members team, or project management manager, and horticulture if any, or HVAC, everybody. And then first architectural drawings are prepared, as we know. Service drawings are prepared, so we should go through the architectural drawings and service drawings and structural drawings, whatever available, or if all available, that is very good. And then EM service drawings. If horticulture drawings are provisions are there, that those also should be made available, because you see, if we do some development and we are not considering before call of tenders them in the tender document, then it may become a problem later on. So all the drawings are to be gone through by the project team, and then a brainstorming is to be done for the tender conditions. Not only the items, and though everybody is doing the brainstorming for the items taken in BOQ, and that is to be continued, that is of prime concern. But then brainstorms would also be done on the tender conditions to be incorporated for success of the contract. Then we should note down all major points of the discussion and then finalize them after a few iterations, not once. And we should in fact discuss them with the architects and HVAC team, because you see, if somebody is not there, then the concept what has been considered may not come as what is desired. So we should ask everyone to think about the points discussed, take a break of 1 or 2 days, and then meet after a break through with the same group. Then they will have more points, and it will be fruitful discussion later. And then we should discuss salient features of earlier converging points, and there may be some points which have cropped up during these 1 or 2 days and new ideas, so those should also be considered. And there may be some discrepancies which might have come into notice of the members, and even additional conditions, items, specifications may be required to be added. So those may be added, and then we can discuss again and finalize them. Then we should call a meeting with the architect or consultant. There may be some points which need clarifications or revisions. In the meeting, service consultant, CM and consultant, everybody should be present. That is better. And then finally we should take some draft we should prepare and circulate to everybody. And this should not take much time, and delayed meetings may lose the track, so meetings should be held earlier, whatever possible. In the next meeting, most of the issues might get resolved, but not all. So broadly, we should finalize the decisions, and then revised documents should be prepared. It will lead to curtailment of time and cost overrun and disputes with the contractor later. And then we should remember that whenever we prepare the tender conditions, there are some conditions which are prepared by civil engineers, some by electrical and mechanical engineers, and some by horticulturists, and then even some by plumbing service engineers. And what happens, they frame their own conditions in their own way, and there may be some duplicity in the conditions, and that should not be there in any tender document or contract, because that may have different interpretations. So it is very important that the conditions, whatever it is there, they should have same interpretation, and we should have only one similar condition. So we should not repeat the conditions in the tender. So for that, everybody has to go through general conditions, special conditions, technical specifications, and BOQ. Everybody means civil engineers, E&M service engineers, and plumbing engineers, everybody. And then we should finalize, and it should be the responsibility of project manager, so he should go through the tender document himself to avoid repetitive conditions with different meanings. It is his responsibility finally. So that we have discussed that duplicity should not be there, and there may be some omissions which are necessary to be incorporated later on. And then order of preference is very important, that must be mentioned in the tender document for discrepancies. Suppose first order of preference is BOQ, then tender conditions or special conditions or specifications, and which type of specifications or drawings. So this order of preference should be mentioned in tender documents. Then we must check about the mandatory approvals like local body approval, tree permission, environmental clearance, check about the site availability, about administrative approval or expenditure sanction, budget availability, because these are important to start the work and even during currency of the agreement. And if they are not there, then contract we cannot have successful contract management. That will delay the project. So those must be considered, and architectural, structural, and plumbing drawings should be available before award of the work. Then we should have pre-bid meeting that is arranged before due date of receipt of tenders, and uh, the engineer or employees should be ready with the possible questions which may crop up in the meeting, and all the drawings should be available there itself. And then there may be few prospective bidders who will ask for postponement of the date of receipt of tenders. So if you are ready and you have presented salient features, then you can continue with the same dates to avoid delay in the call of the tenders. And mm, if the tender has been drafted carefully, then there may not be major corrections, and it is likely that the contract prospective bidders will also come up with the discrepancies if there are, and that will in fact then employer or engineer has to issue the corrigendum. That will take time. Then you may need to postpone of the last date of tenders, receipt of tenders. So to avoid that, tender documents should be prepared carefully. Then, as I have told that the project manager should be ready with all clarifications, anticipated clarifications, and in fact, before that, he should make a brief presentation. That is always good. And then all drawing, site data, and etc. should be made, should be ready there, and that should be included rather in the PPT. And it is advisable that meeting should be chaired by the project manager himself, or chief project manager, whosoever it is, and because he will be well conversant with the tender document, and other team members may be there who can make for supplementary remarks. And then prospective bidders may be encouraged to ask the clarifications, but in orderly manner. So meeting is good, and replies should be specific and not hypothetical but based on the tender documents. In case it is essential to issue corrigendum, then it should be issued, and date of receipt of tender should be extended. Technical bids then are received. Normally there may be that first the employer is receiving technical bids or technical bids and financial bids both at a time. Generally we do it. Then technical bids may have the pre-qualification criteria of the bidders. So the bidders whose technical bids are rejected are likely to raise many objections or even make complaints. So it is better that all the technical bids are thoroughly evaluated as per the tender documents. So all the conditions and pre-qualification criteria should be very well defined in the tender documents, and it should be transparent. And discretionary provisions should not be included in the pre-qualification criteria. Then in technical bids, there may be some of the criteria which may be satisfactory completion of similar works. Similar works should be defined properly. And then there may be quality performance evaluation, financial criteria, profit loss criteria, criteria of technical personnel available with the contractor, TNP, etc. etc. So what is important? These should be included in the tender document, and there should be no discretionary power as far as possible. I think what as far as possible, everything should be included. That is always better. There may be some objections if we are not defining similar words in the tender document. So there should be a clarity. That is always better. And if there is a provision of team a committee provision of committee for assessment of the quality of the ongoing or completed works, whatever is written in tender document, then that should be mentioned in the tender document, and then it is advisable to keep photographs of the inspected works or defects, whatever recorded or whatever observed by the team. So these all things are important, and then accordingly the evaluation of the tender should be done. Then financial bids are received from the technical are opened of the technical bids which have been qualified, and nowadays we are inviting e-tenders, so that is quite easy, and negotiations are not permitted nowadays, so it is easy to decide the lowest once technical bids have been finalized or have been approved. uh, then conditional tenders are also not accepted, and there is no provision in case of e-tenders. Then we should award the work, and then before award the work we should again see whether site is available, budget is available, or we should not put any additional conditions beyond mentioned in the tender documents, and we must ensure that the bids are still valid, because if validity period is over, then all the tenders become invalid. So we should follow the conditions of performance guarantee and other provisions, and issue the award letter. When we talk about the commencement of work, generally good contractors commence the work in time, whatever time has been given, even before the time. Few contractors who do not want to work themselves, they try to sublet the work. So they wait for other agency to take over the work. Then the engineer or employer will come to know. So if the decision of determination is to be taken, and then it should be taken as early as possible. Monitoring of quality and progress should be done from the beginning, as it sets your image, and if someone feels that initially he is not looking so minutely about the quality and progress, and later he will see that it is maintained, it is very difficult. So right from the beginning one should ensure or should set the image for quality and progress, and whatever decision is to be taken, that should be taken as early as possible. That is very important in contract management, whether it is it is for the samples of the work, or it is for the approval of some work, it is for variations, extra items, substitute item, anything, and this decision is to be taken quickly. There are many tools available nowadays which can be used, but remember that they are helping only to us or to the project team and the contractor, but unfortunately we don't use them carefully, or when used we don't make proper use from the software. Whether any software, suppose we are using MS Word or Primavera, we know that labor is not sufficient, labor strength is quite less. Then also we know we will not, if we are not taking any action, then certainly contract cannot be managed. um, then we should ensure progress, safety and quality as per the contract, and for the contractor, payment and decisions are important, so engineer or employer or department should not delay payment and decisions. Progress and quality can be achieved only if department uh, and employer both are serious about it, and then he should press to the contractor, and contractor is also serious about the quality. Coordination is another issue which helps in contract management, and coordination at different levels, at different tiers, that is required, particularly in a works contract. It may be between civil, electrical, horticulture and architect officers, even within civil, within E&M services, and even architectural and structural engineers. So even with the engineer of the employer and engineer of the contractor, so there are a lot of coordination activities which are required in a works contract. So coordination between even hierarchy of the same wing like civil or electrical, there may be three level of engineers, then there also a coordination may be required between various level of officers, between local bodies and project team, between payment authorities if payment is made by accounts department separately, and then coordination between supervisors of various agencies of contractors. So a lot of coordination is required. So that should be taken care by meetings, by coordination, and we should have a system of meeting all and then coordination. That is important. We can even have the coordination committee that helps. Similarly, for the services, maybe plumbing, tile fixing, waterproofing, HVAC, maybe sprinklers, and maybe interior. So there are a large number of coordination activities which are required. So the coordination committee helps in this. And then suppose the contractor and the department organization are not pulling well and some decision is required, and suppose the work is not being done as per the quality, and time is also not being mentioned, and the engineers feel that this work has to be determined or is resigned it, then it should be done during currency of contract. And if work is not satisfactory in terms of progress of quality, whatever decision is to be taken, take right at first time, because delayed means it will be difficult later to take a decision even for the determination. So it is important that if as early as possible decision should be taken. Then even when the work is started, RCC works or steel works starts, then there are the good amount of payments are made because the costly items are there. Initially, it appears that the work is going very smoothly and work progress is very good. But later, when finishing items are there or E&M items are there, electrical items are there, it appears that work is not going on smoothly. Work is not getting finished. Work is very slow, though there are a large number of items which are required to be executed. So we should consider all these things if we are not using softwares in our progress, and then in the meetings this should be pointed out, and then accordingly contract should be managed. And remember, works contract is between two parties, that is engineer or employer and contractor, and they have relations of promisor and promisee and not of the employer and employee. So it means both should sit together and sort out the issues generally may be of from the employer side, it will be quality and time overrun and cost and variations, etc. And then from the contract side, it will be payment is not made or the hindrances or the delays of the decisions, and so these should be taken immediately, and employer or engineer should see that they don't have any delay in giving approvals and decisions, and they are making payment as per the contract, and then contractor should see that he is working as per the quality requirement and following the time given in the contract. So each party has to fulfill its obligations for successful contract management, and I think that time also, whenever we fix in the starting for the contract, we should give the reasonable time. Sometimes we reduce the time initially and feel that later on it will be increased, so that is not good. Being an engineer, we must see that everything uh, is uh, is available in the in the tender document as we want during execution and during completion. So tender document must be prepared as good as possible, and it must be executed as given in the tender document or contract. And then coordination should be done between different levels of the employer and of the contractor, and between employer and the contractor. That is important for best or better contract management. Thank you very much. I am KM Soni, ADG retired. Thanks a lot.